perfect means that what he's talking about is true, as equally true forever in the past, is true now in the present, and it'll be forever true in the future. That we can verify. And how do we do it? By hearing. We gain intelligence through hearing. If one was in the forest, he grew up in the forest, that's the intelligence the person would have. He'd learn how to act like a wolf. The other wolves may think he's rather strange looking, but then again, a lot of people are strange looking. But he would talk like a wolf. He'd act like a wolf. He would be a wolf in a human body. A werewolf. Because that's the only intelligence he'd gain. Because that's what he'd be hearing. And if you don't understand what I just said, then you'll have to go to the wolves and ask. Or go to someone who's a wolf. So intelligence is obtained by hearing. That's the intelligence we have, is what we're hearing. And of course, what we're hearing enters into our intelligence, defines how we see things with our mind. The way whatever our intelligence is, that's how we see. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains 3 things that we can see with our intelligence. We may not perfectly see, but then again, Bhagavad Gita doesn't say that we're going to perfectly see anything at the present time. But this we can see it's perfect at least, the knowledge. For instance, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Beginning with the most easy to understand, Denosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dahantara praptira dirya satra namuyate. That the most intimate experience we have is the fact that my body is changing. If someone denies that their body is changing, they're probably not a very good person to preach to, or to explain any more knowledge to them. If they're convinced they have exactly the same body they had when they were in the womb of their mother, the person probably hasn't heard very much or understood very much. So all of us know we have different bodies in different ages, and our bodies are constantly changing. But we ourselves, the perceiver of this body, of all the different bodies we've had, we're always the same identity. We may have a different personality, but then we're the perceivers of that personality. Just like we have different experiences, even today, at every moment we're having different experiences, but we ourselves are always the same. For instance, when one is a child, he acts like a child usually. And when they grow up, they hope that he acts like a grown-up. But it's the same person. And when he becomes too old, sometimes he again acts like a child. So no one says, John was a child, he grew up, he became a businessman, an industrialist, now he's 99 years old, he's acting like he was a child again. So it's not John anymore. They know the same person's there, but he's just acting differently. So that's perfect knowledge. It's perfect in the past, it's perfect in the present, and it'll be completely true in the future also. That in spite of whatever changes the body we go through, we're not going to change. Now Krishna further explains that in the Bhagavad Gita about Paramatma, and that may be a little bit more sophisticated, that from Krishna says, from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. We can see that people have fantastic memories. Sometimes when they get older, their memories disappear. Did they turn off something in their brain to have their memory disappear? how did their memories start gradually disappearing? They may say it's a physical attribute, memory, but then again, people who don't even have a brain have good memories sometimes. And besides that, we may try to remember something, which is desire actually is a kind of prayer. We're always desiring. And Krishna usually answers our prayer. We ask, what is her name? What is his name? And the prayer is answered. We have to desire. There's a willing, a desire. And then we hear, Jagannath Sutta, Prabhu, or others, Deva Prabhu, Ananta Prabhu. Like, the answer comes, it's not coming from us, it's being given to us. Otherwise, why don't we just read the Bhagavad Gita one time and just, if it was coming from us, just go memorize the whole thing, Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, and then repeat the whole Bhagavad Gita, because I wanted to do it. No, it's being provided to us. And sometimes we're trying to forget something, and we can't do it. It just goes over and over and over in our brain, and all night long we're just thinking about the same thing over and over again. We're trying to forget it, but we can't. So if we were in control, then why can't we just turn it off? Just like a switch. Zip, it's off, it's gone. Because that's what they want us to become, is a machine like that. But right now, we're not in that position. Similarly, knowledge, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, for instance, samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasha vinashantam yak pashyati sapashyati. One who can see this, the soul and the super soul within the destructible body, and knows that neither the soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed, he actually sees. So why can't we see like that all the time? Why don't we see that everyone is a spiritual being? Why do we see their bodies as the person rather than the soul? We just heard that there's a soul within the body who's not changing, and that the external manifestation, the material energy, is not the real person. Why do we identify the person with the external body and mind and intelligence? Why don't we have that knowledge all the time? So it's being supplied to us, the realizations. The Dhammi, Buddha Yogam Tam, to have that knowledge, which is more confidential knowledge, requires actually some devotional service. As a matter of fact, even to understand we're not this body, to have enough intelligence to understand that our bodies are changing, we're not changing, also requires some devotional service. And more confidential knowledge is Paramatma, that requires even more devotional service. Tesham sadatam yuktanam bhajantam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to worshiping me with love, then I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So to know that there's a person giving us remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness requires a lot of pious activity, or at least spiritual activity. And finally, the intelligence to understand there must be a Supreme Person, the logic behind it, if not the experience behind it, requires even more. It's even more confidential. Therefore, Krishna says, "Manmana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mame vaishasi satyam te pratijani priyosame." Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your humble obeisances to me. The result is you'll come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. And in Prabhupada's purport, this manmana, think of Krishna, one should think of Krishna as that bluish cowherd boy with the peacock feather in his hair, the son of Mother Jasoda, effulgence, yellow dhoti. One should not even think of any other form of Krishna. So it requires some more intense devotional service to actually begin to really accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead with all the different attributes and everything that follows that. Namely, that he's the enjoyer, he's the controller, he's the friend of everyone. That requires quite a bit of devotional service to actually come out of the idea that we're the controllers, that we're the enjoyers, or even the sufferers, and that we're others' friends, that we're the doers, that we're saving others, or rather than just being an instrument for Krishna. So, the idea is that this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita is perfect. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The person who created everything, who everything is working under. For instance, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Kalosmi Bharatarshava, that I'm time. Now everyone knows time exists, or at least because we see the manifestations of it. We see our bodies are changing. No one says, my dear body, change. Nor the scientists say, we went back in our time machine and we invented the mechanism, the machine by which time exists and changes things. The time is always there, always changing things. But how can we change time? Can anyone affect time at all? Have the scientists developed a mechanism by which they can meet time and then kill it? And you wake up the next morning and there's a headline in the newspaper, time is dead, the scientists killed it. No, time is changing everything, but no one can change time. Doesn't matter what we do. We may cover it over in different ways. We may add extra lipstick and makeup so that we try and, when we're 90, we try and look like we're 20, but it's not going to work. We're still going to be 90. So time is beyond our control. It's supremely, it's controlling it's changing everything. So therefore, even if we don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we have to accept his manifestation of time is supreme in this world. As Prabhupada used to say, we may not want to bow down before Krishna presently, but at the time of death, everyone bows down when the time comes. You can't say time comes and now I've left the body, but my body's going to stand up straight and say, I don't bow down in defiance of time. No, when the soul leaves the body falls down, whether the soul wants to do or not. So these are factors that we can investigate and understand from Bhagavad Gita that who's ever speaking Bhagavad Gita, he has superior knowledge than anything else that exists in this universe, at least within our experience. Even we go to the learned university, which is known as Ivy League or whatever they want to call it. How many courses do you take on Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan? Even Brahman they don't even study. What to speak of the fact, what course do they have about the inevitability of old age, disease, and death? Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. There's nothing at the university about real knowledge. There may be something in some philosophical course about the sufferings of the material world, etc., but all kind of vague. When it comes to Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, they have some knowledge about how the material nature works, but not very clearly. Especially they don't understand who's behind it and what the laws of material nature are. They don't know. Very rarely you'll hear about karma or reincarnation. They may understand that they're eternal with a little intelligence, But the fact that they have to reincarnate into 8,400,000 species of life, that they're not going to teach you. And therefore people are very whimsical. They think, it doesn't really matter what I do, because at the end of life, when I leave this body, then that's the end of everything. I disappear. And that's what every frog and mosquito thought also, formerly. Therefore, Prabhupada says that this knowledge should be received in simple succession. That's why it's passed down very carefully. And that's why at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it says that this knowledge was, Shukadeva Goswami spoke it like a parrot. Shukadeva Goswami is Krishna's parrot in the spiritual world. Why do they choose Shukadeva Goswami to speak the Bhagavatam? What is this? Oh, this is the introduction. Questions by the sages. Nigama kalpatarar galitam balam sukhamukad drava amrita drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam mohur aho rasika bhuvi bhuvakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures, and emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So why Shukadeva Goswami? Because he spoke the Bhagavatam after hearing it from his father Vyasadeva, but just like a parrot, when it touches a certain fruit with his beak, the fruit becomes more tasty. He doesn't change the fruit, it just by his touch it becomes more tasty. So similarly, the Bhagavatam is spoken in a line of simple succession, and there's no changing of the fruit. It simply becomes more relishable. The more the pure devotees add their realizations, their own personal realizations to it. And then Prabhupada says that why is it relevant to us? Because every one of us has an eternal, intimate relation with Krishna, just like Arjuna did. I know that there may be different degrees of relationship. They're all enjoyable and tasty, unlimitedly. There may be many big mountains in the Himalayas, of which Mount Everest is supposed to be the highest, but all the other mountains are almost as high as Mount Everest. And we don't think, well, there's Mount Everest, it's big, and the other mountains are just tiny in comparison. No, they're also big. How much bigger Mount Everest is, we can't perceive from where we stand on the ground. So similarly, everyone has a relishable relation with Krishna, and that relishable relationship is possible by the process to understand it and revive it by the process of devotional service. And therefore, Krishna says, devotional service to me. So, we may not, and in order to do that, Saevayam mayatedya yogo prokta paratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hiyatad uttamam. The Krishna says there's a certain qualification to hear the Bhagavad Gita. Just like Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita, but why did he benefit from it? Why did Sanjaya, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he was in ecstasy. His hair was standing on it. Because he was hearing it as a friend of our Krishna, friendly. He wasn't antagonistic to the idea that Krishna might be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And eventually he became fully devoted to Krishna after hearing the Bhagavad Gita and fought for Krishna. So first he heard in a friendly way. He didn't blindly accept Krishna as God, but he was receptive. And he didn't blindly reject that Krishna was God. He was receptive, and therefore he derived benefit from hearing Bhagavad Gita and realized that Krishna is God by becoming his devotee, because that's the only way we can actually fully realize Krishna. As much as we become devoted to Krishna's instructions, to that extent, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. He gives us intelligence to understand more. So if we got a little intelligence from hearing Bhagavad Gita, performing devotional service, and it enlivened us and enlightened us, then we'll be interested in hearing more because of the higher taste involved. And if we hear Bhagavad Gita repeatedly and we don't really do any service, we may gain some knowledge, but we won't really understand any more intimately, especially Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Depends on service also. Not only becoming friendly to Krishna, appreciating how well he spoke Bhagavad Gita, and that he might be God, but also by doing some service for Krishna. That's also necessary. Trying to become a devotee of Krishna. Then everything will be revealed to us, gradually. Just like it was to Bhishma Dev. And therefore everything about Krishna is relishable. As Lord Shiva told to Parvati, that Aradanam sarveshu Vishnu Aradanam param tasmat paratram Devi tidiyanam samacharan. Devi, Parvati asked Krishna, Lord Shiva, what is the best object of worship? And he said, Aradanam sarveshu Vishnu Aradanam param. That the best object of worship is Vishnu. But even better, Tidiyanam is to worship objects in relationship to Krishna, especially his devotees, but also his devotee. His devotee becomes just like Krishna. The ornaments on Krishna, the ornaments on Srimati Radharani, they become just as attractive as they are because of their association. Just like there was King Prataparudra, he was very anxious to see Krishna, to Lord Chaitanya. He was even willing to renounce everything, go as a mendicant, because he couldn't get Lord Chaitanya's association. Because the sannyasis, at that time, they did not associate with kings. And so, in order to prevent King Prataparudra from renouncing everything and going elsewhere as a mendicant, then Kasi Misra, he got a devotee from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and first he brought his son, and his son looked like Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, and his son became a pure devotee just by getting embraced by Lord Chaitanya. And then the king was very happy that his son had become such a great devotee. And then Kasi Misra gave him a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and the king was in ecstasy receiving the devotee. It was almost like having Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal association. So that's a question of realization. Just like we get Krishna's remnants, prasadam. Now, if we eat it like a wolf, after all, even Bhima was called Vrikadar, wolf belly. So if we eat it like a wolf, we may forget that it's prasadam and treat it devotionally. So if we treat it devotionally, it'll be revealed to us that this is like Krishna. This is Krishna's energy. And if we eat it like a wolf, then our belly will be filled up. Therefore, we'll be called Vrikadar. We'll be called wolf belly. So everything, and the devotees, Tadiyanam, the devotees should also be honored as just like Krishna. Because they're manifestations of Krishna's mercy to some degree or another. Those who are chanting the holy name, they're on one level of mercy. Those who are showing devotional attributes and drita vrataha, fixed in devotional service, they're on a different level, a higher level to take example and shelter from. And those who are always humble and meek and loving, always surrendered to Krishna, they're on a different namasyantastamam bhaktya those who are actually developing devotional qualities, then they're on a different level to take shelter of. In any case, they're all Tadinam, they're all manifestations of Krishna, and we should take advantage of them accordingly. Respect those who are chanting, try to cooperate with those who are Drita Vrata, who are taking their initiation seriously and worshiping the deities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the deities in the temple and we should follow the instructions and example in all respects of those who are actually surrendered to Krishna and engaged in his actual loving service with bhakti, with pure love and devotion. Then we can come to the stage of Bhishmadev, who is about to leave his body in the Bhagavatam, and be able to meditate upon Krishna at the moment of our leaving this world and go back to the spiritual world. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Here's a question here.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have three quick questions, as much as you allow me. The first one, it is said that devotional service is on the absolute platform. And I suppose because we can develop your devotion to any of the services, but there is mention that preaching is the highest service than all. So how to understand this? Is this the same principle as Dvarka is perfect, Mathura is more perfect, Vrindavan most perfect, or anything else?
No. As your question is about, is preaching better than everything else because of perfect, more perfect, or whatever? Is that it?
Yeah. Why is it mentioned that Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita says one who is the most dear to me? But we say that all the services are on a platform, but we are emphasizing,
Well, everything is preaching in our society. The devotee who's doing the deity worship, he's also preaching. The one who's cleaning the temple, he's also preaching. As it says, actions speak louder than words. As a matter of fact, the whole universe is simply a manifestation of sound. What we're thinking is earth, water, fire, air, intelligence, mind. It's just different varieties of sound, actually. So everything we're doing is a result of what we've heard. And what we do with our body actually is preaching more than what we're doing with our words. What does Jesus Christ say? Something about something faith without action is what was that?
Actions speak louder than I can hear what you're saying.
Something about faith without works is dead. In other words, action. You can talk very nicely, but your works will show actually what you're actually thinking and doing. Faith without works is dead. 1 second. Yes. So, whatever we're doing is actually, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, we work not with our body, but with our mind and intelligence. So what we're doing is actually a manifestation of our mind and intelligence. So we're preaching with our activities also, even more. We can preach, and if someone comes into the temple, and we treat them like they're, some object walking in. We may be giving a great class, but it won't be very much appreciated. Just like Ramaharshan was on the Vyasasan, speaking to so many sages at Naimisharanya. Not Naimisharanya. Yeah, I guess it was Naimisharanya. And Lord Baladev walked in, and he didn't get off his seat. So he showed that his preaching was not exactly what he was actually thinking. And therefore he got hit by a kusa grass in the wrong space.
So shouldn't Maharaj, because we see that in this movement you are always emphasizing preaching, so should we do that or not?
Yeah, we should all be doing preaching. The pujari should be doing his service. Devotees supposed to clean the temple should be doing his service. The devotees who are supposed to greet people should do their service. The book distributor, everyone should be doing their service. That's the preaching movement. It's not only the preaching movement, it's someone who goes out and distributes a book, and finally there's some preaching going on. And finally Krishna's pleased. Otherwise he's just looking at all this, when are you guys finally going to get out there and distribute a book or whatever, Well, you're wasting your time here, doing deity worship and cleaning the temple and making friends with people. It's all preaching. It's all part of the preaching movement. Otherwise, we become fanatics. And if people are going out distributing books, which is greatly appreciated in one sense, is the culmination of everyone else's service. It's like an army. It's exactly like an army. In the army, if there are only soldiers fighting, no one was cooking, no one was taking care of the wounded, no one was taking care of the facilities for tents and everything, no one was manufacturing arms. Only there were soldiers fighting. It wouldn't last very long. The army would cease to exist very shortly. Everyone's contributing. That's why the ISKCON was, what was that? GBC came from the railroad in India. The acronym, I believe. Because they say, keep the wheels spinning. So that's what the GBC is supposed to do, keep the wheels spinning.
So how to understand, Maharaj, that Prabhupada also emphasized book distribution, I don't know.
Because at the end, we have to preach. If a lady is only, supposed to give birth to a child, she's pregnant, she has the capacity, she's about to give, but she never gives birth. Like Shukadeva Goswami was in the womb for 16 years, his mother started to get a little worried. So we're doing all this preaching, but no one gets the intelligence, the knowledge of what we're doing to appreciate it, which is what hearing the Bhagavad Gita and is all about. Then, we won't be able to effectively help others come to the same platform and engage their energies in Krishna service too, and engage in service.
But then you have to sort out the temple, and then when we go out preaching, then it will be effective, other than just, interesting. I mean, Prabhupada did said like preaching, management follows preaching like a shadow, right?
Maybe, I haven't noticed that. I guess, it depends on you. If you preach and you know what you're preaching, then some people may take it, may become receptive to it and become inspired to do something, like, follow your instructions or follow the instructions of others who are managing. But not necessarily. But it's the best way of doing it. In other words, unless we know what we're doing, where we're going, unless we give a vision like that, then no one will know what to do. Then how can you manage? So if you actually have a clear vision and you explain it and people understand it, then they'll know what to do. Then they can be managed properly. They can be managed if there is clear vision and everyone's on board with it.
This is really profound, Maharaj.
What's that?
This is really profound. Thank you for that. And then just a little quick one, and then I will finish because there is no about you said Shukadeva Goswami, we are hearing Bhagavatam from him because it's maybe more nourishing as a parent touches the fruit. So can we also say that Bhagavatam is even more sweeter now when Srila Prabhupada put his transcendental ecstasies as a purpose? Can we also say it's even more nourishing?
That's right. That's right. Okay, Mataji, can we pass the baton to... That's enthusiasm. David just manifested enthusiasm. Yeah.
Gurudev, I was wondering about, just like Chandakazi, when he was creating problems for the Sankirtan party and he actually broke the mridanga. And they say that in Mayapur, in Shiva Sangam, they have the deity and the broken mridanga. And then also they say that in Navadi, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and Vishnu Priya, she carved a deity from neem tree. And they said that the same deity is still there in Navadi. I was just wondering if it's really true.
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you. Anyhow, I don't think we have to blindly accept it or blindly reject it. It reminds us of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's its perfection. Whether it came, wherever it came from, it reminds us that this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyhow, whoever carved it or when it was carved is not so important. But I wouldn't pay $1 million for it, for the mridanga drum that was broken because it was. Otherwise, if someone did pay, then we'd break a few more drums. Thank you very much. Grandarai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Bhagavatam samasitam buddhasundaram Kandar Bhagom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Tamaham Jami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Jami Angani Asa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiraganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Ani